You're listening to the Everyone's Wrong podcast. We leave trigger warnings, safe spaces, political correctness behind to explore the extremes of political discourse.
Hey, you fucks. This is Everyone's Wrong. I'm Dave, a.k.a. the Great White North.
I'm Dustin Dark.
And I'm Ed Smith.
What's up, fellas?
Not much, man. This is a pretty dull week.
You know, Ed's nickname is kind of like herpes. You never know if it's going to be there or not, or where it pops up.
Yes. And when it does appear, sometimes it just falls flat.
I don't know that much about herpes. You got me bested there. Sounds like some words of experience. I didn't know.
Oh, well, anyways, my city's a fucking mess. Like, downtown was fucking horrendous today.
How come?
Awful. Well, it's the Grey Cup's in Ottawa this year.
Oh, fuck.
For you Americans, that's Canadian Super Bowl.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, well, in Canada, we carry you stupid fuck.
Yeah, but first you got to be people in Canada. So,
yeah.
Back to the Americans. My city is in...
Nobody cares.
Oh, everyone cares about America, and you know that's true, so suck a dick.
Go ahead, they care about every place but Alabama. Come on.
Oh, that's fair.
No, Dustin, seriously, Dustin, go ahead. Tell us all about it.
You see how I didn't even bite? You see, Dave, you're that predictable.
Oh, well,
you're that.
That's right.
Okay, there you go.
Right.
My city is in mourning because Alabama just lost to Auburn, University of Alabama. They just lost the Iron Bowl, so I'm sure half the city will commit suicide before the night's over. Oh yeah, dude, they take it fucking seriously, man. They take it fucking. I'm amused. My roommate is amused. He hates the whole fucking state as well. So. Yeah.
Well, put it this way. My buddy has season tickets to the Red Blacks, which is our football team, right? He pre-bought Grey Cup tickets, assuming that we would be going to the Grey Cup again this year because we were the winners last year. He was so pissed that we didn't fucking make it again that he sold his tickets.
Wow. That would be an interesting story if you guys were Americans, but you're not. So let's move on, huh?
Sure, if you want to be a cunt about things, let's do it. And we're back from the break. And as I said, tonight we're going to be talking about Wilfrid Laurier University, and Shepherd is her last name. I'm just going to stick with that because I'll never remember her first name unless I'm told like 40 times. But I guess for people that don't know what the scenario is, she is a teacher's assistant. Is that right, Ed? So you would know. Why don't you explain what a teacher's assistant actually does?
Okay. See, I kept reading that she was a TA. Mm-hmm. Right? I thought that meant that she was tits and ass. I thought that she was like the hot chick
you son of a
in the
bitch.
class. You know what? This is a different story now.
Ed, why don't you explain just really quickly what the in and out of being a TA would be?
Well, a teacher's assistant or TA is person in the master's level of their degree, and they're able to take on course loads for various professors. So basically, those courses usually are ones that have a lecture component, and then there is a practical component.
Okay, so I was close. They are taking loads.
So, oh my God. Anyway, so what they do is they'll take the like a part of the course that is more explanatory so that they can build up momentum, because eventually many of these candidates will go on to their PhD level and probably actually become professors themselves. So this is just a way to help them out in that process. But plus also they often grade the papers, set up office hours. They're the ones that deal mostly with the students compared to most professors.
Okay. And their lectures or their courses or LUDs that they're teaching, is that normally an independent thing? They decide what they're going to be doing?
Usually, yeah, because usually what the lecture part of the course is what the actual content that the professor wants to cover. The supplementary course part of the thing is to reinforce what the professor's already started with. The lecture material. It's built off of that.
Okay, and she's a master's degree student, a TA in communications?
Yeah.
Okay. And part of, I guess, the communications course is English?
Well, yeah, they want people to know how to write properly and to use proper grammar and things like that when they're writing a piece in, say, even if they're going to be a communications official for a newspaper, radio, television, or in the federal government even, or even,
sure.
So that they want to make sure grammar is important, right?
And the troubles began for her when part of her, I guess, curriculum, in grammar, they had gender pronouns inside the course, right?
Yeah. So what part of the book that they were covering had a section on gendered pronouns or gendered language. And so she thought it would be relevant to bring in a clip of a video specifically speaking about a controversy within Canada.
Before we get to that, I just want to break down what she was exactly teaching. So it was the use of gender pronouns in societal situations of they as a singular instead of a plural and his and her.
Right.
Right? Those are the three things that she was teaching?
That was part of a component of what she was teaching. Yes.
Okay. And as part of teaching those three things, because it's a big debate in Canadian society and I guess in American society as well. I guess Jordan Peterson's super popular down there as well. So as part of this, she brought in a small clip of a debate that wasn't on say like a right wing a platform. It was on TVO, was it not?
Yeah, TVO is actually a left-leaning program.
Yeah, but a left-leaning program. But the fellow in particular, Stephen, I can't remember his last name. Do you remember it?
No, but he's real. The guy is the most central,
factually based.
Yeah, and he's really centered, fact-based person that doesn't take sides during debates. He just lets people hash it out. So she played 5 minutes of this clip, and then all shit broke loose.
We have the clip. Would you like to hear it?
Yes, I would.
Okay, so before we get into everyone's reaction, let's hear it and see.
Well, why don't I really would hate to do this. I'm sure like every single listener that listens to this show knows who the fuck Jordan Peterson is, but give us your quick 90 seconds on Jordan Peterson, Dustin, and go.
Jordan Peterson is a clinical psychologist at the University of Toronto that came out against Bill C-16 for gender pronouns. He was a little mistaken in some of his accusations, one being that you could land in jail for not properly using people's preferred pronouns. He has been on the alternative media putting out his lectures for about 3 or 4 years, and they have recently exploded, getting millions and millions of plays. And he has gained quite a bit of notoriety and controversy because
of financial success,
and a great deal of financial success through his lectures. He also does he does a lot of Jungian philosophy and Freudian ideas, and he kind of mixes them with the Bible, and he's putting out his own interpretation of the Bible right now through a series of lectures. Have I missed anything, Ed?
No. Sorry. I did want to ask you a real quick question. I guess we could kind of save it for when we're doing the main breakdown, but since you follow him a lot more than I do, I don't really like him, but Did he actually dox students? Is that a fact?
What he did do, Ed raised his hand. You want to take that, Ed?
Yeah, I have the actual article here that basically what happened was there was a bulletin campaign going across his neighborhood, not even at the university which he teaches. This was actually right outside his physical location where he lives. And they were basically saying that he was a Nazi philosopher. He campaigns against the rights of women, people of color, and members of the LGBT community. These were on full-size bulletin paper, poster campaign. So one of the things is there was a person who was organizing a panel called just bear with me a second. She called it the Free Speech Comedy Show, and she had a poster done up for it, and it was linked in her Facebook page. What Jordan Peterson actually did was he tweeted her Facebook page with that poster on it and out to his, and he has numerous Facebook followers, or Twitter followers, sorry, and so she alleges that she was doxxed by him.
Okay. All right. I guess on with the 5-minute video.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess he doxed her the same. That would be like saying that Thomas Smith doxed me when I argued with him on Facebook because he had me on the show. You know what I mean? It was on Facebook. That's a public exchange. I don't know about that.
I'm not calling that doxing, and also the language that was used that he doxes his students, plural, and his students.
What's in a name? Potentially a great deal. University of Toronto psychology professor Jordan Peterson has a fight on his hands after objecting to proposed legislation that he says would violate his freedom of speech by forcing him to address transgendered people using the pronouns of their choosing. Joining us now to better understand the issue and debate what's at stake. In Vancouver, British Columbia, Theron Meyer, transgender pundit and YouTuber. In the nation's capital, Kyle Kirkup, professor of law at the University of Ottawa. And here in studio, the aforementioned Jordan Peterson, professor of psychology, University of Toronto, Nicholas Matt, lecturer, transgender studies at U of T, and Mary Rogan, whose article entitled Growing Up Trans is featured in the October issue of The Walrus magazine. Good to have you three here and our two friends in Points Beyond. We appreciate everybody being on the program for what is...
I want to stop it right there. I want to throw all my support behind trans adults. But the whole trans kids thing kind of disturbs me, guys. I thought a lot of crazy things when I was a kid. A lot of crazy things. That doesn't mean I should be put on hormone blockers in a dress. But that should start growing up trans. Am I being bigoted? Stop me, guys. Stop me.
Well, no, I mean, I have my issues with that too. But another thing, a thing I wanted to point out in that little brief statement there was about Theron Meyer, the trans person that is in this little panel that they have going on TBO. She actually supports Jordan Peterson's position here. So just
Okay. Back to the clip. Sorry for the delay, guys.
I think one of the hottest topics in the country today, Professor Peterson, and it's all because of you. Okay, with indulgence of everybody else on the program, I'm going to start with Professor Peterson off the top here for a while because, as I suggested, you thought long and hard about this. You posted a few things up to YouTube, asking us to lay the case out. What is it you find offensive about this legislation?
Well, fundamentally, there were two things that really bothered me, although there have been other things I've thought about since. One was that I was being asked, as everyone is, to use a certain set of words that I think are the constructions of people who have a political ideology that I don't believe in and that I also regard as dangerous.
What are those words?
Those are the made-up words that people now describe as gender neutral. And so, to me, they're an attempt to control language and in a direction that isn't happening organically. It's not happening naturally. People aren't picking up these words in the typical way that new words are picked up. but by force and by fiat. And I would say by force because there's legislative power behind them.
So
and I
just
don't
so
like these made-up words, Z and Zer and that sort of thing.
Okay, what about, they're not all made-up, quote-unquote made-up words. For example, they is one of them.
Yeah, but we
speak to an individual as they.
Right, but we can't dispense with the distinction between singular and plural. I mean, I know that the advocates of that particular approach say that they has been used forever as a singular, and that's actually not correct. It's used as a singular in very exceptional circumstances, like if your child wishes to bring a book to school, they're welcome to do so. But
that's just grammatically incorrect.
Well, it is also, there's some debate about that because they is used like that sometimes.
So he's actually wrong. He's actually wrong there. But like
Who?
Jordan Peterson. So linguistically, growing up with British parents, they would say things like they better, and talking in a singular person, they better put their shoes on or they're going to get a butt whooping. You know what I mean? They better be there. And they're only talking in a singular, like they're not talking about multiple people.
I think he actually brings up that it's used in a disciplinary or...
Okay.
Yeah, and what he's actually saying is it's not a replacement for he or she. He's just talking to an individual using the word they.
Yes. Because my parents called me they, but that was when I was going to get a butt whooping.
And this is, and you can see right now, this is a very fitting, poignant conversation to have about the grammar conversation that they're having in Lindsay Shepard's class.
I should have let the video play on if he clarified.
No, it's fine. It's actually a thick piece of audio, like 5-6 minutes. So feel free to interrupt because we're like a third of the way through.
But it's never been used as a singular replacement for he or she. And so it's not a tenable solution, and that's the best of the solutions.
So we understand your views and where you're coming from. Let's do one more question here, and then we'll get everybody else.
I'm just going to stop that again. I want to hash that out a little bit.
I know he has said that. Maybe it didn't make this clip, but he said that before.
He's saying that it doesn't replace he or she. So what is it replacing when you would say they better be there, and they're talking about a singular person?
Because they're only speaking to the individual. They're speaking to an individual, but they're not replacing he or she.
The individual is.
It's not a replacement for he or she.
What's the difference, Ed?
There is the difference is you're not gendering anything. That's why people say it's a gender neutral.
And those people are exactly. That's what they're trying to use they for. It's kind of falling apart. It's kind of falling apart on that, isn't it? A little bit.
There are odd circumstances where you're scolding someone, or giving direction where you use the singular, but to always refer to someone as they and to never gender them is not the natural flow of the language, and that is not present. For sure. So I think their point is mute.
But he just said that it's never been used.
No, that's not what he said.
Context of he.
That's not what he said.
Ed,
no, go back and play it again.
Play it back.
But by force and by fiat, and I would say by force because there's legislative power behind them. And I don't like these made-up words, Z and Zer and that sort of thing.
Okay, what about, they're not all made-up, quote-unquote made-up words. For example, they is one of them.
Yeah, but
we speak to an individual as they.
Right, but we can't dispense with the distinction between singular and plural. I mean, I know that the advocates of that particular approach say that they has been used forever as a singular, and that's actually not correct. It's used as a singular in very exceptional circumstances, like if your child wishes to bring a book to school, they're welcome to do so. But
that's just grammatically incorrect.
Well, it is also. There's some debate about that because they is used like that sometimes, and so it's not a tenable solution, and that's the best of the solutions.
So we understand your views and where you're coming from.
That's where he's saying it never has, which I would disagree with.
It's not replacing the pronoun she or he. It's speaking to an individual. Like I'm saying Dave. I'm using your name. Instead of using your name, I'm saying they. It's not replacing he or she. It's not like saying she's gone down to the market. You're not saying they are going down.
It's replacing a noun, not a pronoun.
Correct. It's actually, it's a pronoun means before the noun, right? Or or an identifier, right?
Hang on, Ed. Just 1 second. Okay. My kid is dragging his ass. Okay. I can say 3 things. I can say, Parker, better hurry up and get his boots on. If I'm talking to my wife at this point. Parker better hurry up and get his boots on. He better hurry up and get his boots on. If they don't get their boots on, see, it can be a replacement.
No, it's not. You're not directly replacing he or she. You're not saying
just did.
You can. No, it's not. It's just you just
okay.
said.
But I can say 3 things. I can use their name.
Yes.
Use my son's name. I can use what his gender is, he, or I can use the general neutral pronoun, which is they.
Yes. But now,
right?
But again, you're not really replacing he. In this case, you're using he or they to replace Parker.
But then you're putting them on equal footing. He and they.
Yes, and Jordan Peterson never said that they weren't on equal footing. It's just that it's not used.
He said that it's not used to replace he or she, and it's not. It's used to replace the noun, not the pronoun.
Okay, but hang on. If they're on equal footing, what would his? And now, I don't have a problem with him not wanting to be forced to say they. Let's just get that out of the way. And this isn't actually about Jordan Peterson, so we'll move on. Right away here. And I know you're not Jordan Peterson. What would his problem be with saying they if it's on equal footing too?
Because what he says is not that he's not willing to do that.
No, I've heard him say that.
No, not they. Not for they. No, he has never said that.
Yes, I have. Oh, yes, I have.
He says he's not going to use gendered pronouns, meaning those ones that are sie, zim, zer, those ones. He just said in this, they is the least best option, or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, go on. I disagree, but anyways,
my point is, no one is naturally going to say, "I've been waiting on they to get here for hours." You know,
but it's like when you use they in the context, and I will agree with it's not necessarily even a replacement. It's kind of like an action. Like it's when you're expecting somebody, like, they better not be late. They better hurry up. When are they going to fucking get here? You know what I mean? It's kind of like you use it in action, and it's very British actually.
Yeah. Well, English is very British, huh?
Yeah, of course.
Downright English.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on, because that was like a lot of work for nothing. I just want to add that I have a grade 10 education, and I'm dyslexic. So let's carry on.
You've been called a lot of things.
Yeah.
One of which is a transphobe.
Yeah.
Some people have accused you of using the free speech issue to mask what's really going on here, which is an attempt to deprive other people of what they believe are their legitimate rights. Well, I want to give you the opportunity to speak to whether or not you are a transphobe.
Well, I can tell you that I've received more letters from transsexual people supporting me than opposing me. And I never said anything really about transsexual people, about their existence, although that was the first thing that I was accused of doing. I didn't say that transsexual people didn't exist. I said that gender identity, gender expression, and biological sex do not vary independently, which they don't. And so this issue is in some sense only peripherally about transsexual issues. It's more centrally about gender issues. And then on top of that, and I think it's the biggest issue, is that it's a free speech issue.
New York City, for example, recognizes 31 such gender expressions. In other words, besides man and woman, there are 29 other gender expressions. For example, pangender, queer gender, gender fluid, crossdresser, bigendered, gender blender, and the list goes on. And Nicholas, this is where I want to bring you into the discussion, because you teach this. You teach trans studies. So if you would, give us a brief primer on so many gender identities that, in your view, require non-traditional pronouns?
Basically, it's not correct that there is such a thing as biological sex. And I'm a historian of medicine. I can unpack that for you at great length if you want, but in the interest of time, I won't. So that's a very popular misconception.
Hey, Ed, real quick, you're a smart guy and I'm a retard, and my biology teacher didn't go to college any more than I did. So let me run something past you real quick. We're a sexually dimorphic species.
Yes, we are.
And that means that there are biological differences between the sexes?
Yes.
Okay.
See, and a lot. I got to back up what he's, back up and explain what he's trying to say, because a lot of these people bring in birth abnormalities. So, like, someone born with XXY chromosome, that's a new gender or sex for them. Klinefelter syndrome and other things like that. These are very rare abnormalities. They're
mutations.
Yeah, mutations in many ways, yes. And so these are not separate sexes, but that's why they use these to bolster their case that they are, which is not true.
Isn't that kind of like saying, like, people with webbed feet or a sixth finger are a new species of human? Like, it's
like saying that they're ducks and I don't know,
I, for one, just wanted to say this one thing. That guy's super. Anyways.
You son of a bitch. All right.
Oh.
So essentially, when in my transgender studies classes, what we're doing is looking at actual research and identifying ways that current social issues related to trans people or things that are associated with trans, such as free speech arguments and claims, how that connects to the way that people are thinking, the way that research has been framed, the histories.
And give us some of the other pronouns that one would hear, typically.
I don't focus on pronouns because pronouns are actually part of a cisnormative culture. So what we do is learn about...
Well, I'm going to stop you right there.
Yes, I was just about to explain.
Okay, so it's normal. Cisnormative. Yes, it is normal to identify with the genitalia you have. That
in the high 90 percentile. Yeah.
Yeah, by the fucking meaning of the word normal. Yeah, no, that's normal.
But that also doesn't mean that it's not normal for trans people to be trans. But it also doesn't mean that because it's normal for trans people to be trans, that we should change the society at large because of the small population size of
and I love what he says next as the reason. Okay, hold on.
Good. So we don't start from a cisnormative perspective because that can't actually go very far.
What does cisnormative mean?
So I'm going to start us there. Cisnormative is basically the very popular idea and assumption that most people probably have, and definitely that our structures convey, that there is such a thing as male and female, that they connect to being a girl or a boy or a man or a woman. And then sometimes that will also recognize intersex or trans people or transsexual people, as you mentioned, because that's sometimes also referred to as a gender binary. So anything that fits within a gender binary can work within cisnormativity.
Okay.
But cisnormativity is basically that everyone assumes that there is male and female, and so very little is actually looked at to understand what's actually the case. And scientists have been doing this for at least over 50 years.
Your view would be it's much more complicated than that.
Right. It's not my view. I just know that for over 50 years, scientists have shown that that's not true, and yet our social systems haven't been able to find a way to address the level of complexity
here
people
it goes.
actually experience.
Okay. If you want us to accept the fact that you're saying that we can't say gender isn't fluid, or that gender isn't linked to sex, or that you can't have a separate gender, in return, you can't tell us that we don't have our gender, either male or female. So to in turn tell us that the genders that we proclaim don't really exist, and want us to be okay with the fact that you're saying that your gender exists, that's not an equal playing field, my friend. That's not. So if I say I'm a male, you have to accept that. And if you say you're trans, I'll accept that. That's how that works. So you don't get to say that there is no such thing as men and women. You don't. And you can't tell me that I don't feel like a man all the time because you don't own my gender. I do. You see how that works? See how this identity politics shit works, you dumb fuck?
Well, I really just want to challenge again his point that there's no biological sex. The idea is preposterous. No matter how much I want or alter my body, I can never give birth to a child. I can never be that.
So we didn't play this to critique the guy that Peterson was talking to, right?
But it was like
I know it's just here's the thing,
terrible.
He is the one saying outrageous things.
Yes,
Jordan Peterson is like, you can't make me say the outrageous things that you're saying, and then the guy says outrageous things like that's.
Should we just like say like, okay, you get what fucking basically the gist of the debate was? There was opposing views. There was views from both sides. So there was this super like regressive wet handshake guy, and there was fucking. The other guy that I don't like, because I don't like either of them. I don't like Jordan Peterson, and I don't like that fucking guy. So we get it. And it wasn't like it was like fucking super anti-trans, right? Because there was a guy on there that was like super trans.
It's two diametrically opposing positions hashing it out. And it was specific to the gender question, the gender language question, because this was exactly what was being brought up in the beginning of the piece.
Well, yes. and what you have here too is two people that are doing an extraordinarily good job at arguing their side as well. Peterson does a good job laying out his case, and then the other guy there, the other they there, does a pretty good job explaining how we can apply postmodernism to gender, and pretend that that's what science consensus is. So, good teacher, go. You like that's what you would want an educator.
And it was
to
a
do.
polite debate, right? Nobody tried to silence.
But this guy did say that Jordan Peterson was abusing students.
Okay, yes, but we watched that debate, you and I, Ed.
Yes.
We watched that debate a while back. I can't remember exactly what went on, but it wasn't like it was like that's kind of typical stuff, right? Like
they did say though also that they were hesitant on coming on the program to give him a platform to spout his hate. They did say that.
Yes, and I'm going to say this in fairness to that person. He does really believe that Jordan Peterson hates him.
Of course. But even Jordan Peterson said, "I don't hate you."
Yes, I know, but if you're stuck in an ideology,
oh, correct,
right?
Yes,
or if you're stuck in a certain way of thinking, then no matter what the other person says, like even though what I just said about gender, like. You can own yours, but you don't get to tell me that mine doesn't exist, right? Mm-hmm. That person there would consider me transphobic in my language.
Yes, he would. Yes.
But what I was saying was, you can have yours, and I won't tell you that you can't have yours, but don't tell me mine doesn't exist because you don't own mine either.
That's right.
Right? There's in that language, there's nothing that says that I'm opposed to whatever lifestyle or however the person wants to be. It really, like, even if it's not true, it doesn't mean anything to me at all. It's no sweat off my back to be like, sure,
Well, I mean,
do what,
I agree. I think that it's no sweat off any of our backs, really. But again, the contention is the forced use of speech. But anyway, let's get back to the Lindsay.
But I was specifically talking about the whole like hate thing, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So he would say that my language was hateful too, even though it wasn't.
Right.
Well, here's the thing, man. Even if you were to meet them, and I know we got to get back to it. Even if you were to meet them and say like, okay, if you decide, and you don't have to have any surgery or anything, you don't have to take hormones. If you decide you're a woman, you're a woman. You can even say that, but then say, look, I'll call you that, but you're a man, and I'll never say that again. But in my opinion, you're a man that is calling himself a woman. That's still not enough, even for you to be polite and to meet them in the middle and say, I'll say it even though I don't believe it. You have to profess belief. It's almost like, and I say this a lot on the show, reminds me of being religious. It's not, you have to not just profess but believe. So let's move on. Sorry.
Okay. So Ed wants a break. Was that break, or are you going to break me in half? What's going on there, Ed? You want to fucking fight, or you want to, I don't understand. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Sorry guys. I know that we said that we were going to be talking about Wilfrid Laurier, but there's a lot to unpack here. So we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. And we're back from the break. Just real quick before we jump in, I just want to say one more thing about what we were just talking about. I find it very ironic that somebody is accusing somebody of denying people their right to their gender, and then or saying that Jordan Peterson says that those genders don't exist, and at the same time saying that I'm going to just use this for lack of better terms, traditional genders don't exist. I just wanted to throw that out there. It's very ironic.
Yeah, it's a bit retarded.
Okay. So basically, after she played this, I guess, a student complained, and we can tell from the bulk audio that it was one student because they refused to give the amount, right? Okay, so I can't say for sure that it was one student, but from what I gather, and I'm pretty good at reading people, that it was one student. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. I'm assuming that it was one student, or even probably a faculty member that was there in the classroom. I have no idea, but it has to be either one or very few.
Yes. So she was talking about societal, how those pronouns would be used in a societal context. She played 5 minutes. We didn't play the full 5 minutes, but she played 5 minutes of that in the course, and it led to a debate and a discussion, which the students seemed very involved in. And nobody at the time in her class complained or said that they felt threatened or unsafe in any way. But the university, or at least her, from her lab or her course, chose to bring her in and chastise her and basically accuse her of being transphobic, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are 3 people that are involved here, and one is her department, in her department. So basically, the actual lecturer that she's doing the work for, right? So the lecturer that she has, her boss, basically, she has someone from the sexual violence and defense and gender violence and defense.
I don't understand the violence part, why the violence person is there.
I don't either, but and then there's the third person, which is like a master's thesis guy, like the head over the master's thesis department.
So he's saying that he only peer-reviewed stuff and that Jordan Peterson never does peer-reviewed stuff. That is what he said.
Yeah, and he also claims that he's not familiar with a lot of Jordan Peterson's work.
Yes.
So therefore, he has no idea what the hell he's talking about. You may not like Jordan Peterson. You may not think he's a great person or what have you. One thing you cannot call him is a person that is not qualified for his position, that he has not used peer review, and he is not an academic. By all means, you cannot say that. He is probably one of the best clinical psychologists in the country.
Well, you don't get a tenured professor of psychology at the University of Toronto, Canada's top psychology university, and not be a top-notch psychologist. That doesn't happen.
I mean, his first lecturing position was in Harvard.
Yes.
So, I mean, this guy's not a slouch.
Yes.
Right?
No, of course. It's a ridiculous. I found it ridiculous. And again, like for people that don't know this, I am not a Jordan Peterson guy. So I hate that they're making me defend him.
And I think it's time to play the clip, Dustin. Of it's about we've worked it down to about 9 minutes or so of this interrogation, and we'll make breaks throughout it to put our points across. But
and wait 1 second, Dustin. 1 second. So how this audio recording came about is that when they called her in to chastise her and call her a Nazi, she decided that she was going to record it.
Smart decision.
Yes.
Smart lady.
Child, according to them.
Why that might have been seen as problematic by some of the students, maybe even threatening.
I don't see how someone would rationally think it was threatening. I could see how it might challenge their existing ideas, but for me, that's the spirit of the university, is challenging ideas that you already have. And I don't know who this came from. I would be interested to see the original complaint or complaints, because I don't really have any context, as to what exactly their problem was. The thing is, can you shield people from those ideas? Am I supposed to comfort them and make sure that they are insulated away from this? Is that what the point of this is? Because to me, that is so against what a university is about. So against it. I was not taking sides. I was presenting both arguments.
So the thing is about this is, if you're presenting something like this, you have to think about the kind of teaching climate that you're creating. And this is actually, these arguments are counter to the Canadian Human Rights Code. Ever since, and I know that you talked about C-16, ever since this passed, it is discriminatory to be targeting someone due to their gender identity or gender expression. So,
nothing she did is actually discriminatory. So playing a video for somebody is not against the Human Rights Code, even in Bill C-16. And I know I didn't have time to look up all the research that I did on it, Ed, but I do remember a lot, because we did a whole episode on it before, and that's not really what the discriminatory basis was inside of Bill C-16. So a discrimination against a trans person or somebody expressing their gender would be you don't rent them a home. If they want to rent a place from you, you don't give them a job. You don't, just or you don't serve them in a restaurant. So any of the non-discriminatory stuff that you would not do against a person of color or a gay person is extended to trans folks. So not playing a video is not being discriminatory, and that would not actually make it to the Human Rights Tribunal. It just wouldn't.
Right, and Bill C-16, as you said, only added gender identity and expression as a category that counts under Canada's hate crime laws, which include calling for genocide, yes, or willfully inciting hatred, or and these are the same things that are extended to people for race, color, ethnic or cultural origin, what have you. I mean, this is not what she's doing. She's not doing any of those. That was one of the main reasons for C-16, was the fact that, of course, it's against the law to murder somebody, but in genocidal terms, it wasn't actually it wouldn't have been called genocide
if you had gone out and killed all the trans people because it wasn't written into the criminal code as such, right?
Yes, they weren't seen as an identifiable group.
Yes, exactly. So you would have been charged with like mass murder, but you wouldn't necessarily have been charged with genocide. And that was one of the main reasons for C-16. Anyways, carry on. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify the actual terminology there.
Bringing something like that up in class, not critically, and I understand that you're trying to like...
It was critical.
No.
I introduced it critically.
How so? Like
I said, it was in the spirit of debate.
Okay, in the spirit of the debate is slightly different than being like, okay, this is like a problematic idea that we want to unpack.
But that's taking sides.
Yes.
Like, it's taking sides for me to be like, oh, look at this guy. Like, everything that comes out of his mouth is BS, but we're going to watch anyway.
Okay. So I understand the position that you're coming from and your positionality, but the reality is that it has created a toxic...
As a person who is teaching communications, grammar, what the fuck is positionality?
Yeah, exactly. I thought that too when I first heard it. Anyways, go ahead, Dustin.
Climate for some of the students.
How many?
It's great that...
Ooh, like how many?
Okay.
One?
May I speak?
I have no concept of like how many people complain, like what their complaint was. You haven't showed me the complaint.
Yes, I understand that this is upsetting, but there's also confidentiality matters.
The number of people is confidential?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is one or multiple students who've come forward saying that this is something that they were concerned about and that it made them uncomfortable. You're perfectly welcome to your own opinions, but when you're bringing it into the context of the classroom, that can become problematic. And that can become something that creates an unsafe learning environment for students.
But when they leave the university, they're going to be exposed to these ideas. So I don't see how I'm doing a disservice to the class by exposing them to ideas that are really out there. And I'm sorry I'm crying. I'm stressed out because this to me is so wrong. It's so wrong.
Can I mention the gendered and sexual violence policy?
It's pretty clear that you can't think what you want to think. If you know what I mean? Like, you think what you want to think, but when you come here, you say what we tell you to say. Mm-hmm. No, that's not the freedom to think what you want to think. It's really, is it? Am I mistaken there? Like,
no.
You feel whatever you think, but when you're here, you lie about it.
Yes. And you teach what I want you to teach. Right? It's not, and I get it. If she was up there, teaching, Third Reich shit, you know what I mean? Or like.
She's playing public television.
Yes.
She's playing fucking public television.
For people that in the US that wouldn't understand this, public television in Canada is paid for by us, the taxpayer. The government pays for it. So TV Ontario, CBC, CTV, we own that shit. So it's actually the government that's fucking like the taxpayer that pays for that to be on television. So I think if it was like outrageous, we wouldn't be putting it on there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. All right, we got a lot of ground to cover.
I know.
Yeah, please.
So under that, it does, gendered violence doesn't just include sexual violence, but it also includes targeting folks based on gender. So that includes transphobia, biphobia, homophobia. All those sorts of things are protected under the policy. And so those are things that Laurier has upheld as values as well as the Ontario Human Rights Code. And so those are things that we're responsible for not impacting our students in that way and not spreading transphobia.
Okay, so what I have a problem with is I didn't target anybody. Who did I target?
Trans folks.
How? By telling them ideas that are really out there? By telling them that? By telling them? Really?
It's not just telling them. In legitimizing this as a valid perspective, as this is another valid perspective.
In a university, all perspectives are valid.
That's not necessarily true.
Well, this is...
Why are they focusing on Jordan Peterson and like, why are they saying that she was... Okay, so if she didn't give her opinion on it, there was like 3 or 4 other debaters, and there was the one transgender studies, like whatever the fuck the person was from UBC, the main talker, the one that I had the issue with because they were saying that traditional genders don't exist. Why are they necessarily saying that she was showing it for Jordan Peterson when their side was equally represented?
Well, they also accuse her in the full thing. They actually accuse her of being a Jordan Peterson plant
student, right? And she didn't go to University of Toronto. But I'm just saying, like this woman here who's right now is saying that she's creating an unsafe space or attacking trans people because she played a video with Jordan Peterson in it. But she played a video that had a trans person arguing with Jordan Peterson.
And she also had a trans person on that program, the TVO program, that was siding with Jordan Peterson. So this was an actual debate where multiple perspectives were actually shown, which is what a university is supposed to be geared to. You're supposed to hear all perspectives and debate them. Those ones with merit will rise to the top. The cream always goes to the top. And that's what you're supposed to do.
Except here, obviously. Because the cream is not teaching the classes. Go ahead, Dustin.
Something that's being debated in current society, and I don't feel the need to shield people from what's going on in society. Like, to imagine that this is happening in university, it's just bad.
Okay, so just to give you a context. Also, within all of this that is happening, Laurier's being blanketed with white supremacist posters. Currently.
No, they're not. It's okay to be
there's
white.
Another debate in society.
Sorry.
Which is whether or not North America should be a set of white nationalist states and that it should be ethnically cleansed of other people.
Come
that
on.
is also a correct debate in society.
No.
Hold on. Did he just say that Jordan Peterson?
No. What he said is that there's a debate going on in society that North America should be ethnically cleansed. Now, I just want to say this. I don't know about it in America, but there's no debate in Canada that Canada should be ethnically cleansed. I just want to say that. And if there is, the number is so fucking small of the people. Like, it's not like they're at the universities in the university level like that asshole is making a cunt of himself on the internet doing this argument. It just, and maybe you can speak for America, because I'm not going to speak for America now. I'll speak for my country. Nobody's asking for that.
Well, the Richard Spencer claims to be asking for a quote unquote peaceful ethnic cleansing of the United States.
Okay.
And of course, you can find opinion articles and things like that from, far left rags, saying that, America, the white people need to go away, that the world would be a better place.
Yeah.
So that's also an ethnic cleansing. And that's what fuels the alt-right fire. And it legitimizes to a certain extent, their claim of a white genocide. And to lend a certain amount of credence to what the professor is saying there, against, Shepard is, it is to a certain extent a white supremacist propaganda campaign. And I've actually listened to, some, YouTube white nationalist propagandists talk about what a beautiful piece it is. It's
what
short.
A beautiful piece. What is?
It's okay to be white. What a beautiful piece of propaganda it is.
Okay.
You see, because it's just like Black Lives Matter. It's one of those things that, there's a larger idea behind it than what the statement itself is. And the statement is used to take people that could be somewhat sympathetic and make them sympathetic to your cause while exposing the other side to be irrational or unreasonable, right? You say what looks to be an innocuous phrase, it's okay to be white. The far left freaks the fuck out. Someone like you in the center is like, well, fuck it, or not you necessarily, but well, maybe these white nationalists do have a point. There is a lot of hate for white people. There are people that think it's not okay. If it's not okay to be white, what does that mean?
But a rational person would obviously weigh the balance of what's going on and actually talk about it. That's one of the things that I find frustrating as a free speech absolutist is to hear people just hearing one side of an argument, and especially in a university context like this is, hearing one side and never hearing the opposing side. Because if you don't hear the opposing side and you become disgruntled with the position that you've been given in a university context, as you start to move faster to the other side.
You want to know what I think when I see that it's okay to be white thing?
What's that?
No shit, and who gives a fuck? Moving on.
Okay, so what it's supposed to do is, I think I did a decent job explaining like how it's a propaganda piece, right?
Sure.
It's supposed to move people in the middle to the right, and it's anyway.
It hasn't worked on me. I just want to say this one thing.
Right. It hasn't worked on me either.
We don't have a Richard Spencer character. That's what I'm trying to say. When he was saying North America, we actually don't have a Richard Spencer that's on TV.
Do you know who Black Pigeon Speaks is?
A YouTuber.
He's a Canadian YouTuber that's a nationalist.
But it's just it's not in the same, like if you ask somebody in America, most people are like, a lot of people are going to know who Richard Spencer is. Right. If you came here and asked somebody who Black Pigeons, they wouldn't fucking have a clue of what the fuck you're talking about.
Well, the point is there are.
I know that there are, but yes, I know that there are, but they're not on the national stage.
I bet if your country was predicted to be to lose its majority white status, like before your kids grow up, there would probably be some movement.
I don't know. I'm not going to predict that. I don't really know. There is
you don't think so?
There is a cultural difference between Canadians and Americans. There just is.
No, there are. I agree.
I'm not going to predict things because I'm not a fucking charlatan asshole. Like apparently this guy thinks. Anyways, that's later on in the video. But I'm saying.
We're halfway through this clip, by the way.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Fuck.
Yep.
Would you show something in your tutorial that you had, white supremacists and non-white supremacists debating whether or not other people should live in North America? Is that something that you would show?
If that was related to the content of the week and we were talking about right-wing speech bubbles, maybe. Okay. It depends on the content. Like, I mean, if there's really ideas that are existing out there like that, then, I mean, look, the thing is, like, I don't see what's transphobic about showing a video of Jordan Peterson. He's a real person. He's out there.
He is a real person, but he is a real person who has engaged in targeted behavior that, or targeting of trans students, in a particular, like basically doxing them, if you know the term, like giving out their personal information so that they will be attacked. Harassed.
That was the thing that I brought up earlier, the doxing thing.
Find them. This is something that he has done to his own students. He has done to other students. And this is also something that the students are aware of. So this is basically like playing.
Real quick, they talk about his students like they joined the Manson family.
Yes, no shit. And like when they were like asking her if she was a student of his, ooh.
Not to kind of do the thing where everything's kind of compared to Hitler, but this is like neutrally playing a speech by Hitler or Milo Yiannopoulos from Gamergate.
Whoa,
this is
there it is.
The kind of thing that departmentally, in terms of like critical communication studies and in terms of the course of what we're trying to do, is diametrically opposed
Jordan Peterson is not Hitler.
Everything that we've been talking about in the lectures. Was this one of the reasons that you wanted to do this? Because it was like a reaction to the lecture content?
No, we were talking about gendered language, and I was asking them to structure sentences using they or using his or her. And then we talked about the societal context of it. Okay. So I don't get why I'm being seen as transphobic by virtue, by proxy of me just saying, just stating, just exposing people to an idea. I don't get how that label is not attached to me. I really don't.
It's more about the effect rather than the intention. If that, like, obviously that wasn't your intention, but nevertheless, it disturbed and upset students enough.
So everything's about those students who are disturbed? Everything is catered to them?
Yeah.
Can I just offer a different perspective? Was this a tutorial based on looking at grammar?
Mm-hmm.
And it was focused on the use of pronouns and the use of grammar.
Mm-hmm.
Is grammar not something that's not really subject to debate?
The they and the his or her, it's a huge debate right now. Can we use they in the singular?
Yeah, but you do know that they has actually been used in the singular.
Yeah, that was in the video I showed to the class, and that's a point I made. And the thing is, what's kind of funny is I disagree with Jordan Peterson. I disagree, but you guys seem to think that I'm like pro Jordan Peterson or something. It's pretty fun.
Well, do you understand how what happened was contrary to? Sorry, Adrian, what was the policy? The gendered and sexual violence policy. Like, do you understand how?
But sorry, what did I violate in that policy?
I'm going to piggyback on what he was just saying. How he just said, "Do you understand how?" Do you understand how you're turning somebody that disagreed with Jordan Peterson into somebody that agrees with Jordan Peterson? So if she disagreed with Jordan Peterson that there was a problem inside of universities, she now agrees with him. If she was a person that disagreed with Jordan Peterson that you were going to go after people for using the wrong pronoun or showing videos of people using the wrong pronoun, she now agrees with him. Like this whole thing, she disagreed with Jordan Peterson. They're turning her and the people that are listening to this video into somebody that would agree with him. The stupid cunts. Go ahead, Dustin.
So, gender-based violence, transphobia in that policy, causing harm to trans students by framing their identity as invalid or their pronouns as invalid.
Or something
potentially invalid.
So I caused harm,
which is
violence.
Under the Ontario Human Rights Code, a protected thing, and also something that Laurier holds as a value.
Fucking pause. Okay, Jordan Peterson says that he may refuse to use these or they, them, or same, but he never once denied their identity. The person that he was debating did deny us people that say that we're either male or female our identity by saying that male and female doesn't exist. Just want to throw that out there. Mic drop. Fuck you. Go ahead, Ed.
Okay. Well, I just want to read what the Supreme Court says. The Supreme Court has also found that there are some limits on free speech that are justifiable to protect people from harassment and discrimination in social areas like employment and services. On the other hand, decision makers have said that freedom of expression is much less likely to be limited in the context of public debate on social, political, or religious issues in a university or university newspaper. Period. There is no violence. It is not harassment. There, she's talking about something that's happening in real life. They need to discuss this
in context in the university. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, Dustin. Sorry.
Okay. So, by proxy of me showing you the video, I'm transphobic and I caused harm and violence. So be it. I can't do anything to control that.
Okay, so that's not something that
words are not violent. So it's just
the fact that happened. Like,
I mean, I know in my heart, and I know I expressed to the class that I'm not transphobic. And if any of them, I don't know what they said, but I don't think I gave away any kind of political position of mine. I remained very neutral. And,
that's kind of the problem.
That's the hook. That's the problem. The problem is that she's not fucking, presenting it biased.
Yes, I left that out specifically so we could talk about it. That's why I wanted to get to that point.
Oh, man.
Because what they're saying there is that the reason why it's problematic in their opinion is that she was neutral on the point. She didn't say she was against it. She didn't say she was for it. What she said was nothing. She just let the clip play for itself. And what they're doing there is saying, you're not speaking correctly. You're not thinking correctly. You're supposed to disagree. No. And we are reprimanding you for not agreeing.
Not just correctly. You're not thinking or speaking like us.
So, yeah.
Right? Let's be clear about this, because they're not letting her come to her own conclusion.
Right. She's entitled to her opinion only if it agrees with theirs.
Yes.
And she's now entrenched, this is what this whole tribunal is entrenched in a re-education program.
Well, she's not allowed to let the students come to their own conclusions.
So that was that clip. We're going to take a quick break and come back with the last segment of the show. We're back from the break. Before we move on to any more audio, I wanted to kind of bring to conclusion what them dragging her into that meeting was about. And in the end, they tell her that she has to run any assignments or any controversial videos that they're going to be showing, that she's going to be showing in the future for their discretion. Basically, they want to censor what she's teaching to these children. They only want children. I know they called them children. They're adults, apparently, 18 years old. They only want them learning what they see fit. So no controversy at all. But that's kind of against what I would think that university is.
It's what Jonathan Haidt calls the social justice university versus truth university. And there's a great thing on YouTube. I'll get it link in the description. It's worth your time sitting down and listening to what he has to say, because it's spot on. So
okay, so the conclusion was, though, in the end, that once the recording came out, they had to apologize, right?
Yes. And here is the president's message to the Laurier community. To the Laurier community, our university has been in the headlines this week. The situation at the heart of the news stories and social media commentary is complex. As President and Vice Chancellor, I have a broad responsibility to balance the many and often competing demands that come into play in these circumstances. Let me deal first with the personal and privacy issues. As a responsible employer, we are obligated to abide by government regulations, human rights, legislation, and our own university policies. To this end, we need to gather the facts of the situation and assess them in a deliberate, fair, and respectful manner. To do this, we are in the process of engaging in an impartial third-party professional. Given the personnel and privacy issues involved, this process will be confidential. So basically, it will not be released to the public.
Yeah, but can I ask you a question, though,
sure.
While you're reading that? Isn't the professor, like, the main fucking douchebag that was, like, the Hitler guy? Isn't he the one leading the investigation?
They said he was going to be part of it now. He's delegated to a part of it.
But how is that third party?
They're supposedly having a third party to be identified at a later date to come in to be the chief. So
Okay.
we don't even know
Okay.
if this is going to happen.
Chief Wigwam.
Related but separate are the important principles so closely associated with the mission of any university. I am confident that those associated with Laurier believe strongly in upholding the important principles of academic freedom, diversity of opinion, critical thought, the civil debate of competing ideas, free speech, and freedom of expression. The real question, however, is how do we encourage and implement these fundamental ideals in a world that's more aware of the importance of inclusivity and yet at the same time is growing more polarized? I think this is a tell-all statement to what her real thoughts about this issue are. Okay, this is what she said was that it's great to have academic freedom, it's great to have diversity of opinion, it's great to have critical thinking, but she talks about how do you balance those when we have more inclusivity? So basically, we're going to have to stop or curtail some of this freedom of speech you have.
But what she's saying there, none of that was gifted, or none of that was presented towards this TA, right?
No,
so like
no.
when she's saying that as a university and my faculty, yada yada yada, it wasn't what was put on display here. Like any of the things that person just talked about, none of it was put on display.
No,
Not one thing. So
I am encouraged by the many people who have been moved by the events of the past week to share their points of view.
Liar.
These issues are clearly important to a great many people at Laurier and beyond. I believe that as a university community, we need to have more conversations about how academic expression happens throughout our institution. To be focused and constructive, these conversations should take place outside of specific contexts that, for good reason, are often constrained by privacy, legislation, employer relations, and other legal requirements. Both rights and responsibilities have to be included in these conversations. To this end, I will be striking a task force charged with a mandate to explore and consult on how we can encourage and protect these important principles at Laurier. My goal is that we work together as a diverse community to build on the many practices already underway here and share our made at Laurier solutions with ourselves and the wider community. In the coming weeks, I will be seeking input on how best to populate the task force and refine its mandate. I look forward to hearing from all of you as we work together to illuminate the many positive ways in which we live and implement these important values and principles at Laurier.
Okay, well, here's a simple man's response to that. Why don't I pull my pants all the way down so I can feel the full extent of you jerking me off?
Yeah, it's a much ado about nothing.
Yeah, there was a lot said. Okay, there was a lot of words and nothing said.
Yes, I agree. Now, we're going to play Lindsay Shepard's, the TA's, response to this.
I'm happy that they apologized. You know, I wasn't out for blood. I was never making this a legal battle. I was never looking to be crowdfunded. I got offers to be crowdfunded, but I declined because that's not what this is about for me. This is about just making people aware of the reality of Canadian universities. So, yes, I'm happy that they apologized, but at the same time, I mean, let's acknowledge that this was their only option, and they were on the route to self-destruction because I read, I would say like maybe 100, maybe more, just like messages and comments from alumni saying they're going to pull funding or pull their donations. And people were saying like Laurier is a joke, not sending my kid there, telling everyone to keep their kids away from Laurier. So, and I think still their credibility has taken a hit. So with all that being said, they never offered a long-term solution. Okay. So yes, they did some damage control. They offered these apologies, but it's not like they made a long-term commitment like the University of Chicago did with their Chicago principals. It's not like they did anything like that. So, I mean, it's not like they've taken a stance on anything. They're just like embarrassed and they had to do something about it.
So is the issue here, and you're saying that you're seeing a lot more political correctness on campus, for example, and that can create an atmosphere that's problematic. So what is the risk to students in what appears to be a sort of politically correct environment?
It's counterproductive because, the biggest problem I see actually is self-censorship. So, in this case, there was actually like institutional intervention and an informal complaint and all this. But really what carries along the politically correct climate is self-censorship and being afraid to say something that's kind of against the dominant ideology of arts and humanities classes. I know I certainly self-censor, and it's kind of counterproductive because you then can't hash out issues and you're just kind of repeating things without really coming to a solution.
I have to say, I think she's bang on everything she just said. She has impressed me more than I'd say any of the professors combined in that, what do you call it, tribunal. She is spot on. They had to apologize. They were losing face drastically. They figured that by issuing the first, the apology, that everything would die down. In fact, it didn't. It peaked really, really, really much more. It actually went to the House of Commons. And I think
what was the discussion in the House of Commons?
We have a clip of it. This is important because this is, as we will see, that without a foundation of freedom of speech and freedom of expression, we can't have any freedoms in our country. Zero.
Of course. Yeah. I would agree with that. I would say this, that it's very telling that a TA had to teach, professors that are inside of the postmodern bubble, about free speech and about what actual university is about, right? Like somebody from outside of that kind of that echo chamber had to come in and do that. And without her recording that meeting, I don't believe any of this would be where it's at now, because plausible deniability, right? So they would have just denied the fact that they had said any of this, and it's over exaggerated like they always like to say. And I think she did herself and future students and teaching a service by secretly recording that.
Yeah, I think she did our country proud. This is something that we need to have a great focus on.
Yeah.
And in our next clip, I really want to highlight this. This is the president of the university, and she is trying to bolster her case because she realized that her apology rang hollow. So,
but she was eating dick, right?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Dustin.
I want to make a very clear statement about freedom of expression at Laurier. Wilfrid Laurier University stands for and supports freedom of expression and academic freedom, unequivocally. Freedom of expression is core to our values. We live it in our classrooms, in our lecture halls, and in the conversations we have with our students and faculty.
Sorry, hang on, Dustin. Can you press pause for 1 second? I'm sorry. This rings hollow as well because you're lying. That is not a true statement. If that was a true statement, none of this would be happening, and I would be talking about Alex Jones or some other fucked up thing that happened this week. Right?
Exactly.
Anyways, go ahead.
And it's been that way for 100 years. At Laurier, freedom of expression means classrooms that are intellectually challenging. They are filled with critical analysis, civil discourse, and diverse perspectives and identities. It also means classrooms where people may experience discomfort hearing ideas they don't agree with, but understand someone's right to hold them. It does not mean intolerance.
None of what she's saying right now makes any goddamn sense to what's fucking the reality of this situation. None of what she's saying is actually what happened.
No.
What the fuck are we talking about here? What, like, who the fuck is this person?
She is trying to, Deborah McClatchy is her name. What she's trying to do is, stop the bleeding that's happening at.
I understand that, Ed. But,
no, but
why would she think that it's okay to say these words and act like they're genuine when it's not the reality of the situation? What she should be saying, if I was her, what I would say was this. Wilfrid Laurier is supposed to be about freedom of speech. It's supposed to be about challenging ideas. We've had a few professors that have forgotten about this. They have since been let go. Moving forward, our university will be about freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and challenging ideas in the classroom. We have offered Shepard a teaching position. Boom. Done. Fucking all the donations are still coming in. This asshole. It would increase. This asshole pretended like it never fucking happened. But it did happen.
No, it's hollow. Like this is one of those things where you know that people are only apologizing because they got caught.
Yes,
they still believe that they're in the right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah, of course. What sounds more genuine, what I said or what she said?
What you said. The fact that they haven't taken any action against these three professors is disgusting.
Yeah. Even if you didn't let them go, they've been reprimanded or they've been told fucking, not told what to teach, but they've been told, you can't fucking censor other people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Fuck. Jesus Christ.
All right, you ready to get back into this clip?
Yeah.
Tolerance. And it does not mean hate. Recently, our university's century-old commitment to freedom of expression was called into question based on a meeting with one of our student teaching assistants. People are angry, and justifiably so. I was shocked after hearing that conversation. It does not represent the ethos or the practice of this university. As a professor and the leader of this university, freedom of expression is central to my own values. I will continue to listen to what people have to say and take this as an opportunity for Laurier to show leadership on an issue that is faced by universities across Canada and by society in general.
What a load of horse shit.
Yeah, this is it. A whole excrement pile. Remember Jurassic Park when you looked and they were got out of the vehicle and they had this fucking big pile of shit that was there from the Triceratops?
No.
That's it. That's a steaming pile of stench coming from it.
Sorry, Ed. I do remember that. Did he step in it, or who fell face first into it?
Remember Mrs. was going with the big gloves and was digging through?
Yeah. Like I said, what she should have said was, it's supposed to. It didn't. They're being reprimanded. That student, or that TA that brought this to our attention, is a rock star. Moving on.
And what they should have said is, we are adopting the Chicago style for free speech. Yeah. That's it. There's no safe spaces. There's no trigger warnings. This is the Chicago style, where the free speech, and if you don't like it, there's another fucking university willing to take you. Because we're not taking it. That's it. That's what the bottom line. Anyway, the last clip we're going to play for you tonight is from the
Having
House.
sex with his wife.
Shh. It's not that good. This is the House of Commons where,
I actually found that clip. You hear about 3 seconds of squeaking and then 30 minutes of crying. It was really awkward. It was, but let's move on.
I just got one. Okay. Bastards.
Sorry, I know it's a serious show, but we joke about shit.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the last clip? Sorry, Ed. What's the last clip?
The last clip is the conservative Andrew Scheer. He is now the opposition leader, and he is talking about what happened at Laurier.
Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister join me in condemning the egregious crackdown on free speech at Laurier University?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Science.
Mr. Speaker.
Now, I want you to pay close attention to what she says. This is not the Prime Minister speaking. This is the Science Minister speaking on his behalf.
Ed, real quick, explain why he's saying Mr. Speaker instead of directly.
Oh, yeah. We have a parliamentary system, so basically, to have decorum in the House, we have a representative, supposedly a representative of the Queen as the House, as the Speaker of the House. They're supposed to guide and dictate who speaks and who doesn't speak, and you always direct your comments to the Speaker and not directly to your opponent on the opposite side of the hall.
And it's not just a guide. It's not a censorship guide, and it's not a censorship guide. It's a civil discourse guide. So it's like, instead of people arguing and speaking over each other, they'll say Mr. Speaker, and then the other person that they were actually speaking to through the speaker then speaks.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister join me in condemning the egregious crackdown on free speech at Laurier University?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Science.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to creating open spaces for Canadians to debate and express their views. In a free society, we may disagree with the person's views, but we must defend their right to hold them, unless those views promote hate. Intolerance and hate have no place in Canadian society or in our post-secondary institutions. We will continue to fight to ensure the charter rights of Canadians are upheld and that every Canadian can feel safe and secure in their community.
Hear, hear. Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, I don't know why the Prime Minister can't just simply denounce what happened at the university.
So, remember that this is the only statement that the government has made, period. And it's by the Science Minister, not the Prime Minister. This is simply the only statement. And I've counted 9 by the Conservative opposition. And NDP.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What did the NDP say?
Similar to what he said. I just couldn't get an audio clip of it, but.
Okay. Similar to what Scheer.
What Scheer said. Yeah, they were condemning.
Okay. Where it sounded like the Liberal government was basically glad-handing like the president of the university.
Yes, and what I didn't like was the fact that she added, unless it's hateful. No.
Yes and no, but that's because that's the one thing that I kind of stuck on, because the violence against whatever fucking bitch that was in that meeting and the fucking wet handshake that was like controlling the whole meeting said that what she was doing was hateful and hate speech and words of violence.
And you have to remember too that this is the same MP, this Minister of for Science, is the same MP that was complaining that people weren't that university professors or heads of universities were not, wasn't enough females, because the fact is that it came out later that there wasn't a lot of females that were applying for these positions, so they can't just give them to people that don't apply.
Is she a scientist?
I have no idea, but
I'd like to know. Because it would only make sense, right? Like that somebody that was like the head of science should be a fucking scientist. I know in the U.S. they never are. They're always like, Baptist fucking Billy Bob.
Well, I mean, our Minister of Finance is being investigated by the fucking Ethics Commission. So
well, there's 3 investigations, but that's not what this show is about, Ed. We can do a show about that if you want.
No, I'm just saying.
We can do the Paradise Papers in full.
I do want to also talk about the fact that the leader of the opposition in our House of Representatives basically is saying that if he becomes prime minister, he's going to cut federal funding to any federal institution, university in this case, that does not uphold free speech standards.
Well, I was under the impression it's not that he's just going to cut funding, but that there was going to be some a bill put forward that for a more robust version of free speech in Canada and in Canadian universities. I could be wrong about that, but that was what
I have a clip of it, but we didn't have time to play it. But he actually says he wants to cut funding, just like Justin Trudeau said that he would cut funding for federal funding to universities if they didn't meet diversity quotas. So he's saying, if you don't make free speech, we're going to cut your funding.
Okay. But on top of that, I also think that he was, or I could be wrong, but I don't really follow Andrew Scheer. He's not my type of guy.
But anyway, in conclusion to this, I think that she's a hero to Canadian universities. As far as I'm concerned, she handled herself with grace, being outnumbered 3-1. I think the fact that she recorded this whole thing, Lindsay Shepherd really did the Canadian public, Canadian institutions, and the Canadian government really a service by doing what she did.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I go like hero, but I would certainly say like she brought some things to surface that we wouldn't have necessarily known, right? Like, so if you told the average person, so my wife has multiple degrees, went to university, a couple different universities. None of this shit was happening.
Nor when I was
went to university. If I came to her and I said, because anytime I bring up university, she always said, well, that wasn't going on when I went to fucking university. She doesn't say fucking, but I think this has brought into light some of the, and I hate to say this, some of the things that Jordan Peterson has been talking about that has been going on in the universities. Kind of this post-truth thing, right? So is it true that if somebody says, I refuse to say Zer, that they are the same as a white nationalist? And is it true that you playing a video that's refusing to say Zer is the same as you playing a video of Hitler?
Right.
Is that true in postmodernism?
Well, see, postmodernism, there is no such thing as truth. Postmodernism says...
No, they say that. They say that there's no such thing as truth, but their truth is what's true.
Yeah, what they say is there an infinite number of truths in... So your truth, what belongs to you is your truth. What belongs to me is my truth.
Okay. But that may be what they say it is, but that's not how they behave.
Okay. That's a different.
Okay. So what they said was that it's true that the equivalent to what she said and what she did was playing a Hitler video and teaching white supremacy or Nazism in a class. Okay. So, since they were presenting that as the truth, is it true?
No, it's definitely not.
I don't think it is true.
Not by any stretch of the imagination.
Not by any stretch of the imagination. It's not true. They can say that there's no such that. So they can say postmodernism. What it means is there's no such thing as true, but that's not actually what they represent.
No, exactly.
What they think is true is what they want people to.
Yeah, it's the ideological bubble that they're in. Yes,
exactly.
Anyway, Dustin, do you have any final statements?
All right.
Do I have any final statements? No, I think it's ridiculous that she got in trouble for playing fucking public broadcasting. I know I already said that. And I don't understand how one university can be punishing a TA for something that a tenured professor is saying. They can't go after Jordan Peterson because he's tenured, and he has a large following that has his back. So they try to go after some smaller fish, and they can suck a fucking dick.
Exactly.
So that's all it is. They're being predatory. They're picking on this nice young lady when she's just doing her job, and in my opinion, doing her job well.
Yeah, I know, and I agree with that. And one final thing, like you just said, public television, come after all of us then, you cunts, because I pay for that shit, and so does Ed and anybody else in this country that pays taxes. And just so that we're clear, things I'm not going to say that debate necessarily was run by people, but I do know that things that are shown, they're not just going to show anything on television, right? So like they do censor porn, like they don't show porn on fucking TVO. You know what I mean? So it's like there are things that are too much for TVO. That clearly wasn't one of the things that was too much for TVO. So if it's not too much for the public, why is it too much for our growing minds? Why is it too much for the people that are going to be running this society, that are going to be teaching my child when he gets to university? And are we trying to let that mind cultivate on its own, or are we trying to mold that mind in our own image instead of having it be its own individual mind in doing this? I would say that we're trying to mold it into the image of that singular professor, and I'm not okay with that. I'm just not.
And my final statement is, my biggest fear is for the people in the trans community. In this respect, that the more people are trying to stifle people from speaking their minds, the more animosity and enmity that will come towards them, because they will see trans people as a collective, as a threat. And I'm scared to death that that's the way it's going to be, because that's not what people want. People want people to be left alone and to do their own thing in Canada. We really don't want to be bothered with anything. Right? I don't want to be bothered with Dave's shit. I don't want to be bothered with my shit. You know, I want to focus on me, right? And I don't have time for anybody else's bullshit. The idea that you're going to stifle me and tell me what I can think and what I can't say, no, that's the point where people get angry and they start lashing out.
Okay, well, that was the fucking episode for this week. It was a long one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I can't say that I was like, I enjoyed the fact that we got to hash it out, but I don't enjoy the fact that we had to speak about this, like, censorship in universities. I don't think that's very fucking cool that has to be hashed out. I really don't. I don't know about you guys, but I'm like, that one, it's just like,
well, that pissed me off.
Like, internet bullshit, that's fine. You guys, fucking SJW versus fucking anti-SJW, alt-right, all that shit. That's fine. But inside, like, where people are learning and supposed to be using your mind to think, it's just that ain't cool.
I agree.
Agreed.
Have a good week, you fucks.
That's it. We're out.
You've been listening to the Everyone's Wrong podcast. You can find us on our homepage at Spreaker.com/everyone'swrong. You can also find us on iTunes and YouTube by searching for Everyone's Wrong podcast. Or you can listen to us on your podcast app of choice by importing our RSS feed. You can follow us on Facebook.com/everyone'swrong or join our closed Facebook group by searching Facebook for Everyone's Wrong After Hours. You can tweet us at wrong_pod or email us at everyone'swrongpodcast@gmail.com.